Do you have any question before we start?
Yes, doctor, I want to say something.
Okay, Ala, go on.
Okay, thank you. After you mentioned the three ways that Ezra Pound talked about, I want to say something about logo pay association that is applied in the poem that we took last session, J288.
Okay.
Since you have mentioned that the word should convey one meaning in the text, we know that the frog returns to die in the play of its birth. Emily Dickinson describes the somebodies as the frog because they stay in the same level by accepting the views of the society. Whereas if she associates nobody with the frog, which she didn't do, we will consider it here as a symbol of change, since the frog undergoes many stages in its growth. Isn't it, doctor?
Okay, can you repeat the last part of your interjection?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, because
Emily
the voice was very low.
Yes.
Okay, raise your voice a little bit.
Whereas if will I begin?
Okay, go on. Repeat the whole statement that you said.
Yes. Whereas if Emily Dickinson associates nobody with the frog, of course she didn't associate the frog with nobody, but with somebody. We will consider it here as a symbol of change, since the frog undergoes many stages in its growth.
Okay. Here she compares her society to a bog or to a pond because she doesn't appreciate living in this society. Okay, so this means that all the people of this society are the same. There are no differences between the people living in this society. And in this case, if people are the same, it means that there is lack of individualism. Okay, so this means that
Doctor?
the members of this society do not have their own individualities. Okay, so the bog
Doctor?
wait a minute, is inhabited by frogs, and frogs keep making noise all June long, according to the poem. Yes, the lifelong June. Okay, so the frogs cause noise. Okay, and to be somebody, it means that you are well known to all people. So this means that there is no secrecy, there is no individuality, there is no sense of personality. So all people are the same. Okay.
Okay, doctor, thank you.
Okay. Not at all. Okay, someone was going to ask a question.
Doctor, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I guess there's something that making parasite. We can't hear you clearly. I guess if you are putting an earphones, they are making a parasite.
Is it clear now?
Yes, doctor, thank you.
Okay, not at all. Any more questions? Any more interjections? I.e., do you want to say something? Okay, in this poem, bog is a symbol of stagnation. Yes, a pond or a bog contains stagnant water. Therefore, it is a symbol of stagnation. So she uses the pond to refer to the stagnation of the society where she's living. Okay, so this is the significance of the word bog. Okay, so this is the significance of the word association that Ezra Pound refers to. So we know that a bog contains stagnant water. Okay, so the stagnation of the pond is symbolic of the stagnant nature of the society where the speaker is living. Okay, so this means that she doesn't approve of this society. Is it clear now, Ola?
Yes, doctor, it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, J318. Did you read this poem? Did you read the poem which is entitled J318? What is it all about? I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. The steeples swam in amethyst. The news like squirrels ran. The hills untied their bonnets. The bubblings begun. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. But how he sat, I know not. There seemed a purple style, which little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side, a dominee in grey took gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. Okay, we have many images in this book. Can you tell me what these images are? There are certain symbols, certain objects that stand for certain ideas that Emily Dickinson wants to communicate through them.
Yes, doctor, I can tell you.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
We know that the squirrel runs quickly. We may have a better tomorrow, preparing for the future. They never sit idle. Although they represent the quickly movement, they don't fly but glide over long distances. Also, I want to refer purple color. It's associated with power, ambition, nobility, peace, and independence. It calms the mind and the nerves. Also, the yellow color is a symbol of happiness, enlightenment. This is a positive meaning, whereas the negative meaning, it's a symbol of betrayal, madness, and sickness.
Yes. Who else?
Doctor,
Yes.
we can refer to the sun as the freedom of the society.
Okay.
Doctor,
Yes.
can we refer this as lamenting her beloved?
No. I will tell you why later on. Who else
We can also say that the flock, referring to the birds who can fly freely in the wide sky above this society.
The flock?
Yes.
No, the poem is a religious poem. And the images that we have in this poem should be interpreted along this theme. The poem deals with the theme of religious freedom, spiritual freedom. Emily Dickinson in this poem explicates on how the church prevents the Christians from having spiritual freedom. Okay, so the flock in this poem refers to the yellow boys and girls, and the flock here has a religious signification. The flock here refers to the Christians in general. Okay, now according to Christianity, Jesus Christ is a kind of a shepherd, and all Christians are his flock. Okay, so a shepherd takes care of his sheep. So Jesus Christ is a shepherd who leads his flock to Christianity, to worshiping God. So that's why a priest, according to Christians, is compared to a shepherd. He is like Jesus Christ. So he is the shepherd that leads the flock, i.e. the parishioners, to the world of faith and righteousness. Parishioners, Parishioner, parishioner, i.e. the people who belong to a certain church or who worship at a certain church. So the flock here are the yellow boys and girls, and the yellow boys and girls represent the Christians who aspire to have spiritual freedom. Okay, so here we have the sun. The sun is a symbol of freedom. Yes, this is the religious, the spiritual freedom that Emily Dickinson deals with. So she's showing how the church tries to prevent people from having religious or spiritual freedom. So we have the sun, which is a symbol of freedom. The steeples stand for the church. Okay, so the steeple is a high tower which is a part of a church. So the steeple here represents the church. And the amethyst is purple, dark red. The steeples swam in amethyst, and we know that purple is the color of the blood of Jesus Christ. So amethyst could be a symbol of power, of nobility, of passion, i.e. love. At the same time, it is the color of Jesus Christ's blood. So in this poem, it refers to Jesus Christ's sacrifice. The news like squirrels ran, the hills untied their bonnets. Again, the untied bonnets are symbolic of liberating oneself from the constraints of the church. And the bobblings began. The bobbling is a small singing bird living in America. This is a kind of an American bird. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. But how he set, I know not. There seemed a purple style. Again, the purple style is symbolic here. The style is a pair of stairs. and we have styles in the fields. So a style leads from one field to another, especially from a lower field to a higher field. يعني من جال لجال, from one terrace to another.
Doctor, please, can you move slowly?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
What's your name?
Malak Abdul Karim.
Okay. Okay, so the turtle style is symbolic of moving from one place to another. The little yellow boys and girls, yellow is a symbol of sickness here. Yes, the little boys and girls are sick because they lack spiritual freedom. So that's why they climb the style. And I will discuss this in detail, don't worry. I'm just showing you the images that you have to focus on. We're climbing all the while till when they reached the other side. Okay, so here we have two sides, we have two fields, we have two terraces. So as the boys and the girls climb the stile from a lower terrace to a higher terrace, something takes place. Such like a dominee, i.e. a pastor, a priest, in gray, i.e. wearing gray clothes, put gently up the evening bars. Evening is a symbol of darkness, right? And the bars are symbolic of prison. Okay, so here she is saying that the church, the priest, prevents people from having spiritual freedom and led the flock away. So when the boys and the girls get to the second place, the priest brings them back to the first one. Okay, so this is it. So she is saying that the church prevents the Christians from having spiritual or religious freedom. Okay, so I will tell you how the sun rose a ribbon at a time. Okay, so the sun in this poem is a symbol of freedom. It is also a symbol of enlightenment, a symbol of life. Okay, so spiritual freedom for Emily Dickinson is a symbol of life. Okay, so when the sun rose, it means that there is a certain kind of spiritual freedom that people aspire to have. A ribbon at a time, and a ribbon is a symbol of beauty. Okay, so people aspire to experience the beauty of spiritual freedom. The steeples swam in amethyst, the news like squirrels ran. Yes, I said the steeples represent the church, and the amethyst color represents the blood of Jesus Christ. Okay, so if we link this to the sun, we come to the conclusion that Emily Dickinson is dealing with spiritual freedom that the Christians, or at least herself as a Christian woman, is looking for. Okay, so Emily Dickinson is looking for spiritual freedom, and this spiritual freedom is not given to the people because the church doesn't want these people to have spiritual freedom. Okay, the news like squirrels ran, i.e. the news spreads everywhere, i.e. people celebrate the new freedom that they want to experience. They are happy. The hills untied their bonnets, the bubblings begun. Okay, so one spiritual freedom is introduced into the lives of these people. They become happy. Okay, so that's why the hills untied their bonnets. Okay, so again here we have a personification of the hill. The hill is an object, and it unties its bonnet as a woman does, or as a human being does. Okay, so the freedom of the hills is symbolic of the freedom of the people. Okay, so people aspire to shed away, to put away the kind of spiritual enslavement that the church imposes on them. Okay, the Christians want to put away, to put aside the spiritual slavery that the church imposes on them. Okay, so here the natural imagery of the hills that untie their bonnets reflects the status of the Christians. The bubblings begun. So there is a celebration. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. Okay, so when the sun rises, Emily Dickinson associates it with spiritual freedom. When the sun sets, Emily Dickinson associates the sunset with lack of spiritual freedom. Okay, so she says that must have been the sun, but how he set, I know not. There seemed a purple stile which little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while. Okay, so the purple stile is a symbol of a change, or is a symbol of moving from one, or it is a symbol of developing from one state to another. The purple stile is a symbol of developing from one state to another. And the color of the style is purple. It is the color of salvation. Yes, the blood of Jesus Christ that was shed on the cross is a symbol of salvation. Okay, so the purple style is a symbol of spiritual salvation for the Christians who aspire to have spiritual freedom. So that's why I said that style is a symbol of development from one state to another. Okay, so the development here is a development, it is a change from spiritual slavery to spiritual freedom. Okay, so the world that the little boys and girls are living in is a world of spiritual slavery. Okay, so they want to proceed to move to a world which is characterized by spiritual freedom. So that's why the little yellow boys and girls are climbing the stile. This is it. Number two, they are yellow because they are sick. So the yellow color of the boys and the girls represents their death at the spiritual level. They lack spiritual freedom. So that's why they are yellow. The boys and the girls lack spiritual freedom. That's why they are yellow. They are sick. There seemed a purple style, which little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side. So when they proceed from the world of lack of spiritual freedom to the world of spiritual slavery, to the world of spiritual freedom, the priest brings them back to the world of slavery. Okay? Till when they reached the other side, a dominee, i.e. a pastor, a clergyman, a priest in gray, and gray is another symbol of lack of life, the gray color. Okay? The gray color is not brilliant, so it is a symbol of lack of life. A dominee in gray put gently up the evening bars. Okay? So it is the church that prevents the people from having spiritual freedom. It is the church that imprisons the Christians within this spiritual prison. So the evening bars are symbolic of spiritual imprisonment. Therefore, spiritually speaking, the Christians, according to Emily Dickinson, are imprisoned. And the one who causes this imprisonment is the church. A dominee in gray put gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. So the flock here constitutes or refers back to the boys and to the girls who climb the stile to the world of spiritual freedom. So the priest brings these little boys and girls back to the world that lacks spiritual freedom. This is the poem. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes,
Doctor?
doctor.
Yes.
Maybe the purple color, which means the blood of Jesus. That means if these girls and boys try to rebel, maybe the church will punish them or maybe kill them.
It's not a matter of killing these boys and girls. It means that the church wants people to worship God according to the teachings of the church. This is the meaning of lack of spiritual freedom. Okay? The church wants the Christians to worship God according to the teachings of the church only. Okay? So these people have to follow the dictates of the church. Is it clear enough?
Yes, doctor.
Okay? So it's not a matter of killing the boys and the girls or the Christian people. No, the lack of spiritual freedom means that the church forces the Christians to worship God, to perform their religious rituals according to the teachings of the church, i.e. there is no individual freedom as far as worshiping God is concerned. Okay, so that's
But
why what?
I mean, if they dare to rebel, And she was posting her poems under anonymous name because she was afraid of the church. So if they wanted to rebel, they maybe they will be punished, no?
Okay, here is a poem. We don't have something that tells us that they will be punished. Their punishment is not physical. Their punishment is spiritual. Okay? So if there is a punishment, it is a spiritual punishment, not a physical one. So they are not allowed to worship God the way they want. Is it clear?
Clear, yes.
Hawthorne, who is a 19th century American novelist, wrote The Scarlet Letter, which is a novel. In this novel, he deals with a woman who sinned with a man. As a result, she gave birth to an illegitimate daughter. And the society is a highly puritanical society. Okay, the society that is described in the novel is a puritanical society. And we know that Puritanism is a highly strict Christian Protestant sect. Okay, Puritanism preaches morality. Puritanism preaches that man's behavior should be approved of by God. Okay? And there is an extremist sect of Puritans which is called the elect. Elect. The elect believe that God has chosen a certain group of people for heaven. So those who work hard to win God's approval may not necessarily be granted heaven after death. Okay? So the puritanical faith emphasizes that man behave morally and religiously. Okay? Now Hester Prynne, the protagonist of The Scarlet Letter, has committed a sin. And as a punishment, she is placed on a certain scaffold to show her sin to people. Okay? So her punishment is a means to show the other Christians that they don't have to violate the teachings of the Bible. Okay? Her punishment is a means of controlling her own needs and desires. Okay? The novel shares many aspects with the Romantic movement. One of these aspects is individualism. Okay? So the woman fell in love with a priest. In fact, the father of the daughter is a priest. At the end of the novel, we realize that the priest who is considered the best among his comrades is the one who has committed a sin with Hester Prynne. And Pearl, the illegitimate daughter, is his daughter. Okay? I'm not going to discuss the novel because the novel has a different idea, and it seems to me that Hawthorne is against the practices of the Puritanical church. So that's why we realize that the narrator sympathizes with the priest as well as with Hester Prynne. So that's why the daughter is called Pearl at the end of the novel. So anyway, so the punishment that the Christians will have is a spiritual one, not a physical one. Okay, so Hester Prynne in that novel is punished spiritually. Okay, it is true that she is placed on a scaffold to show her sin to others, but it means that the lady is to suffer spiritually. This is her punishment. She has to do penance for her sin. And according to the priest who has sinned with her, Hester Prynne has done penance for her sin because she has lived as a righteous woman and she has reared this daughter. And she has protected her against sin. So the punishment that they may have is a spiritual one, not necessarily a physical punishment. Okay, is it clear? Now, in the poem is entitled J324, Emily Dickinson shows us that she worships God according to her own standards. This is another kind or another example of the spiritual freedom that she wants to have. Okay, so J324 reads as follows. You have it. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I will read this one and analyze it because it is related to J318. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home with a bobbling for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplice. I just wear my wings, and instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. What is it all about?
I guess the way she worshipped God.
Okay, how is it? What is it? How does she worship God?
She used to worship God in her house, and she didn't want to go home because to go to the church because she worshipped God according to her own standards or beliefs.
How is this reflected in the poem? How is it revealed in the poem?
It's revealed by saying that I keep it staying at home. And some keep the Sabbath in a certain place where they go to the church, I guess.
Okay.
Yes, doctor, I can add something.
Okay, go on.
According to Christianity, the Sabbath is a day devoted to worship.
Yes.
According to Emily Dickinson, she spends this day not going to the church, but she stays at home, which is considered as her own church, where she performs her worship. So she emphasizes on the time spending with ourselves. She says that people follow certain dress code and strict norms while going to church, whereas she believes in going as what she would go as on other days. This idea reflects her view toward religion. She has her own wings. Here, wings are symbol of freedom and spirituality. Birds use their wings, as we know, in flying to go overhead in the sky. So she doesn't think that going to heaven is following certain rules and stricts of a certain religion.
Yes, yes, that's
Can I,
right.
doctor?
Okay, go on.
Here she's saying that she doesn't need a relation, someone to guide the relation between her and God. She can directly worship God. She wants to fly with her own wings. She doesn't want the help of the clergymen or others. She believes that worshiping God could be anywhere, not necessarily in the church and not necessarily in special days. She can worship God all time and everywhere.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Doctor,
Yes.
is it true that she is saying instead of going to the church and giving them the opportunity to control her freedom or her spiritual freedom, she's staying at home in order to preach as she wants, يعني?
What did you say?
I said that it's true, and I understand it like she wants to stay at home instead of going to the church where they get the opportunity to control her beliefs or her praying or something like that.
Hmm. Yes.
Is it okay?
And doctor,
Yes.
maybe she means that God doesn't only give the spiritual guides only to the clergyman. Is not devoted or elected by God to preach people. Everyone can do his prayers even alone.
Yes. This is why she said God reaches, i.e., she is reached to directly by God. So she doesn't need a mediator between herself and God. So she gets the dictates of religion directly from God. She doesn't need a priest to preach to her how to pray or how to worship God. Okay? Some keep the Sabbath going to church. And we know that the Sabbath here means Sunday. To the Christians, the Sabbath is Sunday. To the Jews, the Sabbath is Saturday. Okay, so here we have to take the meaning that is related to Christianity. So some people keep Sunday going to church. I keep it staying at home with a bubbling for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. So this is clear. Christians go to church on Sunday to perform their religious rituals. Emily Dickinson doesn't go to church on Sunday. She stays at home because she has her own church. Okay? So her own orchard stands for the church, and her bobolink, which is a bird, stands for the choir. The choir, Choir. Choir. The choir or the chorister. The choir is the group of people who sing carols at church. Carols, Carons, carols, i.e., religious songs. So Emily Dickinson has her own church, which is her own orchard, and she has her own choir, which is her own bubbling. Some keep the Sabbath in surplice. The surplice is the gown that is worn by the priest. Okay, the surplice is the gown that is worn by the priest. So that's why she says some keep the Sabbath in surplice. So here she is referring to the priest who goes to church to give a sermon and to run the service. I just wear my wings. And instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. Okay, the sexton is the person who rings the bell at church. And usually the sexton tolls the bell to call people to prayer, to church. So Emily Dickinson doesn't need to have a bell for her church or a sexton because her little bird sings to her. God preaches a noted clergyman. So her priest is God himself. She doesn't need to be preached to by a priest. She doesn't need a priest to preach the Bible to her. She is preached directly by God. Okay, so she gets information, doctrines directly from God himself. And the sermon is never long. So this means that she doesn't need a priest to show her how to worship God, how to perform her religious duties. Okay, so she is preached to directly by God himself. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. So Christians go to church on Sunday so that they will end up in heaven after death. This is it. Instead of getting to heaven at last. Yes. So according to her, those who go to church because they want to end up in heaven after death. So going to church for these people is a means to an end. Okay? So it is a means of ending up in heaven. So this is the difference between her and them. So she doesn't go to church because she wants to end up in heaven. No, she is going all along. She is already on her way to heaven. So she doesn't need to go to church to be granted heaven after death. Okay? She is already on her way to heaven. That's why she doesn't need to go to church on Sunday in order to end up in heaven after death. This is the point. It is easy. It's not complicated like the other ones.
Doctor,
Right? Yes.
can we say that she is criticizing the length of the sermon since she said that and the sermon is never long, that she, because we know that Christians have their sermon for like 2 or 3 hours. Can we say that she is criticizing this?
Well, it could be, yes.
Okay.
Yes. What else?
Maybe she believes herself to be acting in a good way. She didn't do since she is truthful and honest. For that, she believes that she's going to go to heaven.
Yes, yes, she is rebelling against the church. So that's why I said in her poems, she subverts the principles of her society. Okay? So in the first poem that we discussed last time, she rebels against the society by announcing that she is a highly individualistic person. She has shaped her own identity and she is controlling her life. This is one means of subverting the authority of her society. Number two is the poem that deals with spiritual freedom. Okay, so she is saying that the church prevents the Christians from having spiritual freedom. Number three, she's saying that she doesn't need to be preached to by a priest. She gets information, religious information, and rituals directly from God. So she doesn't need a priest to teach her how to perform her spiritual duties. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Now the last poem, which is entitled J322, Emily Dickinson draws on religious imagery. She uses religious imagery to highlight the fact that she will be united with her lover in heaven after death. Okay, so they are not united on earth, they will be united in heaven. So that's why she uses religious imagery in this poem. We have the reference to saints, to resurrections, the wardrobe of our Lord, the sacraments, the sealed church, the supper of the Lamb, the crucifix, and the Calvaries of love. And the Calvaries of love refers to the sufferings of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ, according to Christianity, is love. God is love. And you may have studied this in Gibran's The Prophet, if you have taken The Prophet in World Literature before. Okay? Okay, next time I will discuss J322. Now I will go back to the chapter on writing the research paper. Okay? Writing the research paper. We need to discuss some bibliography notes. Okay? So at the beginning of this part of writing the research paper and documenting the sources, I introduced to you how to write a bibliography note for a book written by one author, right? We did this before the Christmas vacation.
Yes, Doctor, right.
Okay, I said when we have a book by one author, we start with the family name of the author, followed by his first name. This is the MLA style sheet. And you have an example in the book on page 78 if you have numbered your pages. If you have not, it is page 412 that you have at the top of the page. Can you find it? Let us go back to it.
Yes, doctor, I found it.
Okay. Here you have Johnson, comma, Paul. Okay. So when you write your list of works cited or your list of references, you have to list the sources in an alphabetical order according to the family names of the authors. So you start with the family names of your authors. Okay, so you start or you proceed from A to Z, and the first line of your bibliography note should be lined up against the margin, i.e. you don't have to indent 5 spaces as I told you last time, right? I sent you the example by WhatsApp, right? Eliot T.S., The Metaphysical Poets, Selected Essays, London, Faber, 1964. I think all of you have it. Okay, so if you open your
Yes.
phone, you will come across it. Okay, so if the bibliography note that you write at the end of your research paper runs into more than 2 lines, i.e. if it consists of more than 2 lines, if your bibliography note runs into more than 3 lines, the first line should not be indented. You shouldn't skip a space at the beginning. So you start next to the margin directly. So here you write Johnson. So the same applies to language and as well as to literature students. Okay, so you have Johnson, comma, Paul. So Johnson is the family name of the author. Paul is his first name, and you should have a comma. Okay, and after the comma you should have 1 space only. I think I mentioned this, right? I told you before the Christmas vacation, you don't have to have any space. You don't have to have any space before any punctuation mark. But after every punctuation mark, you should have 1 space. This is for the language students. For the literature students, you don't have any space before any punctuation mark. But you have 2 spaces after a period, after a question mark, and after an exclamation mark. Okay? You have to have 2 spaces after a period, after a question mark, and after an exclamation mark. You have 1 space only after a comma, after a semicolon, and after a colon. Is it clear?
Yes, doctor.
Yes.
Yes, doctor.
You have or you don't have a space after or a space before a dash. If you have a dash, you don't have to have a space before it or after it. Okay? No spaces before or after a dash. And this applies to language and to literature students. Okay, so you may write next to your bibliography note, Johnson is the family name of the author, comma, Paul is his first name, period, birth of the modern Then you have a colon. It means that there is a subtitle. Okay, Birth of the Model, this is the main title. World Society 1850 to 1830. This is the subtitle. Therefore, the title and the subtitle should be underlined, or it should be italicized. Okay? Then you have a period. After the period, you have New York. This is the place of the publication of the book. Then you have a colon, and after the colon you have Harper. Harper is the publisher. Comma, 1991. This is the date of the publication of the book. You have to memorize these pieces of information by heart. Because on the exam you have to write a bibliography note for the text that you have to analyze on the exam. This is number one. You have also to write bibliography notes for certain sources that I give you. So I may give you, I may ask you to write 5 or 4 bibliography notes. So this is how you write the bibliography note. Okay.
This is the same.
Okay.
This
Now,
is the same for.
Yes.
This is the same for both APA and MLA.
This is how we write a bibliography note. Okay. Now the bibliography note that you have in this chapter is written according to the MLA style sheet. Now, if you want to write it according to the APA, you do the following. You write Johnson, comma. Write down, please, the language students. Johnson, comma. Capital P, period. You don't have to write Paul. You write the initial of the first name of the author only. P, period. After the period, you write within parentheses 1991. Is it clear? Write 1991 within parentheses, i.e. within brackets. Period. Then you write the title. Okay? So you have birth, it is capitalized. Of the, it is not capitalized, because of is a preposition, that is an article. The modern is capitalized because this is MLA. Now, according to the APA, you don't have to capitalize the M. Birth of the modern, you don't capitalize the M. Colon, world, the W is capitalized. It is the first word of the title. Society, the S should not be capitalized. So according to the APA, you capitalize only the first word of the title and the first word of the subtitle. And if you have other words, you don't need to capitalize them, unless they are proper nouns or nationality words. Period. New York, colon, Harper. This is how the APA students should do it. Now, if you turn over the pages, the APA students, you will have notes related to how to write a bibliography note according to the MLA style sheet. So at the end of this chapter, you have APA in text citations. You have to read them. I discussed them in class. Okay, you have page 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have APA citation style 5. It is the same. They are related. You have to read them. And you don't have to number the bibliography notes. All of you, language as well as literature students, you don't have to number the bibliography notes. So you don't write number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay? So at the end of this chapter, you have a sample research paper. Can you find it? Let's go to the end of this chapter. There is a sample research paper. Did you find it? Say yes or no, for goodness sake. Did you find it?
Yes, doctor, yes.
At the end of this research paper, on page 426, you have a list of works cited. This is written according to the MLA style sheet. Here the entries, i.e. the bibliography notes, we call them entries. Entries, E-N-T-R-I-E-S. Okay, so each bibliography note is called an entry. So here you have Bedford, J.W. and E.W. Ralphs. This is the first entry, the first bibliography note. It is not numbered. You don't have to number them. Then you have Percy Charles, Cummins Kenneth, Fuller Samuel. So you don't have to number your entries or your bibliography notes. Okay? Then you may skip some pages. You have examples of reference list entries. Can you find it, the language students? Language students.
Yes.
Okay, so when I refer to writing a bibliography note, you have to refer to this page, the language students. Here you have book by a single author. Smith, the family name. Comma J, this is the initial of the first name. Period. The date of the publication within parentheses. Then the title of the book, Leadership and Women. It is italicized. So you either italicize or underline the title. Period. Boston Colon Free Press. Okay? So the language students should refer to these samples. Okay? I will leave the discussion off at this point. Next time I will discuss J322 and I will discuss how to write a bibliography note for a book by more than one author, i.e. by 2 or 3 authors, according to the MLA and according to the APA, and more than 3 authors, up to 6, 7, 8, according to the MLA or the APA format. And I will do how to write a bibliography note for a work in an anthology. So you have to memorize these notes one by one. So I'm going slowly concerning the bibliography notes to make sure that you memorize them. Don't postpone memorizing these forms till the time of the final, because the other bibliography notes are more complicated than this one. This is the easiest one. The bibliography note that you have to write for a book by one author or 2 authors or 3 authors or by more than 3 authors is easy to write. But when it comes to writing a bibliography note for an article published in a journal, you have other things to memorize. If you have to write a bibliography note for an article published online, you have a certain format. So memorize them one by one. So I will leave the discussion off at this point. Do you have any question before I dismiss the class?
No, doctor.
No question? Are you sure?
No, doctor. Yes.
Okay then. I will see you, or we will meet. We are not going to see each other because it is impossible in this case.
Doctor?
We will meet next week.
Doctor?
Yes, go on.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure MLA is for literature students, right?
Yes,
Okay, doctor, thank you.
not at all. Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, goodbye.